I thought it was just a game, until the game started playing me. I never planned for that night to be anything more than a distraction. It was 2 a.m., the kind of hour when reality itself feels thin, when shadows in the corners seem a little too alive. My room was dark except for the soft glow of my monitor. I downloaded a new VR horror title, one I had never heard of before. No reviews, no videos, nothing. Just there, waiting for me. I told myself I was lucky to stumble on it, a secret find. But now I wonder if it found me. The headset slipped over my eyes with that familiar hum. Everything around me vanished into black. Then, suddenly, the world opened into a corridor. Long, narrow, too narrow. The walls were cracked concrete, streaked with moisture, their edges blurred by shifting shadows. My skin prickled even though I knew it was fake. I laughed nervously, whispering to myself, just pixels, just code. Then I heard it. Not the ambient sound of the game. Not the programmed creak of floorboards or the hollow echo of dripping water. This was different. A whisper. A real voice. Behind me. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My room was empty, or at least it should have been. The voice said my name. Soft. Familiar. Like someone leaning in close enough that I could feel the warmth of their breath on my ear. I ripped off the headset. The corridor was gone. My room came back into view. My desk, my chair, the dim red glow of the power button. Everything exactly where it should be. Empty, silent. Except it didn't feel empty. I turned slowly, scanning every corner. Closet door closed. Curtains still. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I exhaled a shaky laugh. Maybe it was some kind of in-game trick? Maybe the microphone was feeding my own voice back at me? Trying to shake it off, I slipped the headset back on. The corridor was still there, waiting. Darker now. The shadows seemed to have thickened, stretching across the floor like black veins. At the far end of the hall, a door had appeared. It hadn't been there before. I moved forward, every footstep echoing unnaturally long. My hand twitched as I reached for the doorknob. And then another whisper, clearer this time, not from the game, not through the speakers, from right behind me in my room again. This time, it didn't just say my name, it answered a thought I hadn't spoken aloud. I stumbled, nearly tearing the headset off again, but the corridor twisted, the walls warping, the shadows writhing as if alive. And suddenly, the doorknob turned on its own. The door creaked open into darkness. Inside, something moved, a figure just barely visible. Tall, wrong, its face blurred like static. It tilted its head, as though studying me. And then, it whispered the words I had told myself at the beginning. Just pixels, just code. My chest tightened, my throat went dry. I yanked the headset off, this time faster, more desperate. But when my eyes adjusted, my room wasn't safe anymore, because the shadows on my walls weren't mine. They were still moving. The deeper I went into the game, the stranger it became. The rooms weren't random. They looked familiar. The peeling wallpaper, exactly like the hallway in my grandmother's house. The crooked mirror, an exact copy of the one in my apartment. And then came the voice again, distorted, glitching. Don't take it off. My throat tightened. My hands trembled against the controllers. I wanted to believe this was just clever design, some sick trick where the game scanned my memories and rebuilt them in 3D. But no headset could dig that deep. No code could know the nightmares I'd buried. I whispered to myself, it's not real, just play through it. But even as I said the words, I heard something else. Footsteps, not in the game. In my room. The sound was faint at first, like socks brushing across the floorboards, but with each step I took in the virtual hallway, the echo followed me here, in reality, behind me, beside me, too close. I froze. The game screen flickered, and then movement. In the corner of the VR world I saw a figure, just a silhouette at first, like static given shape. It stood where the shadows bent unnaturally, in the exact spot where, in my real room, I knew my desk was. I turned my head slowly. And though the headset blocked my vision, I felt it, something waiting in the dark outside the screen. My heart slammed against my ribs. I ripped the headset halfway up, just enough to peek out. The room should have been safe, empty, but the shadows had shifted. The corner by the desk was darker than it should have been, too dark, as if the light from the monitor couldn't push inside. And there, I swear, the air moved, like someone inhaling slowly, patiently. I yanked the headset back down, desperate to escape into pixels instead of facing whatever waited outside. Big mistake. The game wasn't just copying my world anymore, it was ahead of it. The figure had moved closer, standing now in the doorway of the hallway I recognized, the one that looked exactly like my grandmother's house. Its shape jittered, glitching like corrupted footage, but every so often it stabilized, and I caught pieces of it. A hand, a face, a mouth opening too wide. And that voice again, now clearer. "You can't leave me here." My lungs burned. I tried to press pause, nothing. I tried to quit to menu, nothing. The only option was to keep walking forward. Each step echoed louder in my ears and louder in my room. A rhythm not just inside the headset but around me, circling. I wanted to tear the headset off, to run, but I remembered what happened before. When I lifted it, the game followed. And then something new happened. The vibration in the controller turned into pressure. A hand, not the game's haptic feedback. A grip, tight around my wrist, pulling the controller down. I gasped and dropped it. The plastic hit the floor with a hollow crack, but in the game, the controller was still in my hand. My virtual arm still clenched it. That's when the figure moved, closer, closer, until it was just inches away. I braced myself, thinking it would grab me, but instead, it leaned in and whispered, not distorted, not glitching, perfectly clear, using my own voice. "Don't look behind you." The headset went black. No game, no menu, just pitch dark. And yet I could still hear the footsteps, slow, approaching, right behind me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I waited for the touch, for the cold hand on my shoulder, but instead, the black screen flickered to life. Just one sentence, written in letters that bled at the edges. "Next time you take it off, I'll be waiting." My body jolted with terror, because I realized this wasn't a warning. It was a promise. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. My chest was tight, my hands were trembling, and that distorted voice, my voice, but not mine, kept whispering through the headset like broken glass in my ears. I ripped the headset off. But the nightmare didn't go with it. The hallway was still there. Not on the screen, in my room. The peeling wallpaper clung to my actual walls, rotting and wet to the touch. The crooked mirror, the same one I had just seen in the game, hung exactly where my bookshelf should have been. And then I felt it. A shift. Air moving behind me, as if something huge had just taken a step closer. I froze. My throat locked, and for a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I whispered the only words that made sense. "This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real." But the voice behind me whispered back, perfectly synced with my own lips, "It is now." I turned, slow, heavy, unwilling. At first there was nothing, just shadows pooling in the corners of the room, darker than they should have been. But then the shadows bent, curved, and pulled themselves upright, shaping into a human silhouette. It was me. The figure looked exactly like me, down to the nervous twitch in my left hand. But its skin flickered, glitching like a corrupted video file. Each time its face came into focus, it blurred again, mouth hanging open as if struggling to form a sound. And then it spoke. Not with its mouth, with mine. "Don't call anyone, they won't remember you." I staggered backward until my shoulders slammed against the wall. I tried to grab my phone, desperate to call someone, anyone, just to prove I wasn't trapped in some waking hallucination. The screen lit up, but the home screen never appeared. Instead, glowing white letters stretched across the black screen, glitching and warping just like inside the game. Level 2 unlocked. I dropped the phone. The message didn't vanish. It burned into my vision, lingering like an afterimage burned into my eyes. I wanted to scream, but fear strangled the sound before it reached my throat. The figure, my figure, moved closer. Every step it took was out of sync with the sound. One step, then 3 echoes afterward, as if more than one version of it was walking. My brain tried to count them, 1, 2, 3, but my stomach twisted with the realization they weren't echoes, they were multiples. And in the corner of my eye, I swore I saw more shadows peeling off the walls, all of them shaped like me. My room, the room I thought was safe, was filling with versions of myself, faceless, glitching, hungry for something I couldn't name. The nearest one tilted its head, mirroring the way I had done 100 times in front of a mirror. The movement was too perfect, too intimate. And then, with a sound like tearing flesh, it leaned forward and whispered in 100 overlapping voices, "Next time you take the headset off, we'll all be here." My knees buckled. I crawled toward the door, scrambling like a trapped animal. I yanked it open, but it wasn't my hallway, it was the game's hallway. The same cracked walls, the same wet ceiling, stretching on into endless darkness. Somewhere far down that corridor, I heard footsteps. Not walking this time. Running. Straight toward me. I slammed the door shut and pressed my weight against it. My pulse hammered so hard it hurt. I turned, praying to see my real room again. But it wasn't my room anymore. Every wall was covered in that sick, peeling wallpaper. Every corner was occupied by shifting silhouettes of myself, all staring without eyes, waiting for me to slip, to blink, to look away. My headset was lying on the floor. Just lying there, like a trap, waiting to snap shut. And then, the voice returned, glitching, broken, whispering directly into my ear, though the headset wasn't even on me anymore. Play, or be played. My vision blurred. My body wouldn't move. It felt like reality itself was loading, buffering, breaking around me. I reached for the headset, not because I wanted to, but because some part of me had to. The shadows closed in. The phone lit up again. And those same 2 words etched themselves into every surface of the room. Walls, ceiling, even my own skin. Level 2 unlocked. Darkness swallowed the last of the light. Every blink was a betrayal. Each time my eyes shut for even a fraction of a second, the world shifted. Walls stretched into corridors that didn't belong in my home. Doors appeared where there should only be blank plaster. And the familiar hum of my apartment was replaced by a low, almost inaudible static, like a broken radio signal bleeding through the air itself. The headset lay on the floor, cracked from when I ripped it off. But it didn't matter anymore, because the game hadn't ended. It had followed me out. At first I thought it was just residue, a trick of overstimulation, like when you still feel the rocking of a boat long after you've stepped on land. But then I saw the wallpaper clinging to my own walls, the same decayed, peeling pattern I had walked past in the game. The crooked mirror that should have existed only in code was now hanging exactly where my bookshelf once stood. And the shadows. They weren't shadows anymore. They were forms, breathing, shifting. They crawled across the corners of my vision, stretching long, inhuman limbs along my ceiling, tracing cracks across reality itself. When I turned to confront them, they whispered, "Stay. Play." The voices bled together, some glitching like corrupted audio files, others so close they felt breathed into my ear. My body tensed as I realized they weren't just sounds, they were instructions, commands. I wanted to run, but every door betrayed me. The door to my bedroom now led to another hallway of the game. The bathroom opened to a staircase descending into a basement I'd never had. My own front door should have led to freedom, but when I opened it, I saw a hallway lined with flickering lights stretching into infinity. I slammed it shut. The walls pulsed as if the room itself was breathing with me. And then came the revelation that tore through me like ice. This wasn't about the game ending. It was about the game consuming. Every blink let it grow stronger. Every moment of hesitation gave it space to spread. The shadows multiplied, twisting into figures almost human, but always wrong. Too tall, too thin, their faces static, blurred, as though unfinished. I backed into the corner, heart pounding, when the mirror rippled. Something pressed through from the other side, fingers, pale and jagged, followed by a face. My face. But its eyes were voids, black screens flickering with faint white code. It smiled. And in my own distorted voice it whispered, "You took it off, Anne, so we could stay." My knees buckled. I wanted to scream, to claw my way back to the real world, but the realization struck like a hammer blow. There was no real world anymore. The game hadn't overlapped with reality. It had overwritten it. The air grew heavy, static building until it rang in my skull like tinnitus. Figures closed in from every side, their whispers now a chant, "Play or stay. Play or stay." The headset on the floor vibrated, shaking against the wood as though alive. I didn't want to touch it, but the chant grew unbearable, pounding in my head until my vision blurred. My hand reached for it without permission, as though the decision had already been made for me. My fingertips brushed the visor, and the world blinked. The floor beneath me cracked open into void. My apartment vanished. The walls stretched into endless corridors, each one branching into more, fractal and infinite. I could feel myself unraveling, not just as a body, but as a player, as though the game was rewriting me, turning me into part of its code. I don't know if I'll ever escape. I don't know if you'll ever escape, because maybe the next time you put on your headset, you won't take it off, and if you do, the game might still be waiting inside your walls.